Most Americans don't know this, but Australia has a special forces unit with a selection process so brutal, it makes Delta Force's 6-month operator training course look like a warm-up. I'm not exaggerating. If you've ever wondered which elite unit you'd actually trust in a real crisis, not the Hollywood version, but the boots on the ground, no backup, life or death reality, this breakdown is going to change everything you thought you knew. And I'm not just pulling this from internet forums. I'm talking about the 2020 Brereton Report, an official Australian Defence Force inquiry that exposed classified SASR operations, the good and the ugly. This isn't hype. This is documented. But before we dive into the comparison, there's one fact about both units that never makes the news. But wait, before we begin, please subscribe to ensure that you never miss out on any of my essential stuff. Comment I subscribe below, and I will personally welcome you to our community. With that said, let's get started. Here's what the recruitment posters don't tell you. Australia's Special Air Service Regiment, the SASR, runs a 21-day reinforcement cycle at Bindoon, Western Australia. According to Australian Defence magazine in 2018, only 10 to 15% of candidates pass selection every year. Think about that. Out of every 100 soldiers who show up, already trained infantrymen, already fit, already screened, only 10 to 15 walk out wearing the sandy beret. The average candidate? 26 to 28 years old. Infantry background. Marathon runners. Guys who've spent years preparing. Let me introduce you to someone. We'll call him Jackson. 27. Infantry. Ultra runner. He thought he was ready. Day 14 of selection. 60-kilometer navigation test. Through Western Australian scrubland. In 40 degrees Celsius heat. That's over 100 degrees Fahrenheit for anyone keeping track. He carried a 40-kilogram pack. No GPS. No partner. Just a map, a compass, and his own resolve. By hour 9, his boots felt like molten lead. Every breath tasted like copper. His quads locked up twice. He kept moving, because stopping meant quitting, and quitting meant going home. He passed. Now let's talk Delta Force. Delta's operator training course runs 6 months at Fort Liberty in North Carolina, formerly Fort Bragg. According to Relentless Strike by Sean Naylor, published in 2015, the attrition rate is around 90%. You read that right. 9 out of 10 don't make it. Delta's selection includes psychological screening, land navigation under extreme time pressure, stress shoots where targets appear in milliseconds, and something they call the long walk. If a candidate decides to quit, they literally walk away. No ceremony. No second chances. But here's where it gets brutal. SASR candidates face a 48-hour resistance to interrogation phase. This is documented in Australian Defence annual reports. They are subjected to stress positions, sleep deprivation, sensory manipulation. The goal? Break you mentally. See if you'll crack under pressure. Delta has similar SEER training, survival, evasion, resistance, escape, but it's spread across different training phases and often happens after selection. If you're thinking one is clearly harder, hold that thought, because the next part flips the script. But here's where the comparison gets complicated. Both units hide one critical weakness, and we are about to expose it. This is the part most documentaries skip. The SASR has been deployed continuously since the Vietnam War. That's 1965 to 1972. Then East Timor. Then Afghanistan from 2001 to 2021 under Operation Slipper. According to the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, in 2020, SASR conducted over 3,000 offensive operations in Afghanistan. 3,000. They specialize in long-range reconnaissance and direct action missions in Uruzgan province, one of the most hostile regions in the country. Small teams. Minimal support. Maximum danger. Now Delta Force. Formed in 1977 by Colonel Charlie Beckwith. First major operation? The 1980 Iran hostage rescue, Operation Eagle Claw. It failed badly. Helicopters crashed. 8 service members died. It was a national tragedy. But Delta learned. Faust. According to Military Times analysis from 2019, Delta has conducted operations in over 40 countries. Mogadishu in 1993, the Black Hawk Down battle, Iraq from 2003 to 2011, the ISIS campaign in Syria and Iraq from 2014 to 2019, and the 2019 raid that killed ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Let me tell you about Carter. Composite based on declassified accounts. Delta operator, 32 years old, former Army Ranger, 2017 Syria, hunting ISIS high-value targets. The compound was dark. Intel said 12 hostiles. He counted 19. His team had 90 seconds before reinforcements arrived from a nearby checkpoint. They moved fast, breached 3 doors simultaneously, cleared 4 rooms in under a minute, extracted the target with 0 friendly casualties. That's not luck. That's thousands of hours of training. But now we need to talk about the elephant in the room. The 2020 Brereton Report, an official Australian government inquiry. It found credible evidence of 39 unlawful killings by SASR personnel in Afghanistan between 2009 and 2013. Let me be clear. This isn't anti-SASR propaganda. This is documented by Australia's own government. It reveals what happens when even elite units operate under extreme pressure without proper oversight. A warrior culture that went unchecked. Here's the alternative perspective. This doesn't diminish the skill of individual operators. It reveals a systemic failure. What happens when accountability breaks down in a war zone? Delta Force isn't immune either. Remember the Navy SEAL Eddie Gallagher case in 2019? U.S. Special Operations faced their own controversies. But Delta operates under JSOC, the Joint Special Operations Command, which has more layers of legal oversight and rules of engagement documentation. According to the Brookings Institution in 2021, U.S. Special Operations conduct more missions annually, but with more stringent accountability measures. So you might be thinking Delta has the edge in scale and oversight. But wait until you hear about training philosophy. Because this next difference explains why one unit excels in chaos, and the other in precision. Here's what separates good from legendary. The SASR was formed in 1957, modeled directly after the British Special Air Service. Their philosophy? Self-reliance, long-range patrols, small team autonomy, standard SASR patrol, 4 men. That's it. 4 operators deep in enemy territory, sometimes for weeks, with no immediate backup. According to Australian Army doctrine, SASR operators spend 18+ months in advanced training after selection. Parachute operations, combat diving, survival training, demolitions, vehicle operations, close quarters battle. But the core principle is always the same. You might be alone, so you better be able to handle anything. Delta Force takes a different approach. According to Inside Delta Force by Eric Haney, published in 2002, written by a founding member, Delta uses a building block approach. Mission-specific task organization. You might be a breacher on one mission, a sniper on the next, and a medic on the third. Delta operators cross-train in advanced marksmanship, explosive breaching, combat medicine, intelligence gathering, and hostage rescue. They work closely with the CIA's Special Activities Division for covert operations. Now here's where science backs this up. A 2017 RAND Corporation study on special operations training found something fascinating. Elite units with decentralized decision-making, like the SASR, showed 34% faster reaction times in ambush scenarios. But units with centralized command structures, like Delta under JSOC oversight, showed 28% fewer civilian casualties in urban environments. So which matters more, speed or precision? The answer depends on the mission. Let me tell you about Liam. Composite from Australian media interviews. SASR Trooper, 29, deployed to Afghanistan in 2011. His patrol was ambushed 80 kilometers from a nearest support base. No air cover, no quick reaction force. They were on their own. 2 teammates were wounded. Enemy patrols were closing in, and air support wouldn't arrive for 6 hours. Liam's team had to navigate rough terrain, treat casualties, evade enemy contact, and walk out, completely alone. They made it. All of them. That's the SASR philosophy in action. When things go wrong, you don't wait for rescue. You save yourself. Now let's talk resources. According to the Congressional Research Service in 2022, the annual budget for JSOC units, including Delta Force, is estimated between $350 and $400 million. They have access to custom weapons, CIA aircraft, NSA intelligence support, and global logistics. The SASR, according to the 2020 Australian Defence White Paper, their budget is approximately 150 to 200 million Australian dollars. That's roughly half in USD. Smaller footprint, less integration with intelligence agencies, more reliance on creativity and problem solving. If you're thinking resources equal superiority, you're not wrong. Money buys technology. Technology saves lives. But the next part reveals why money can't buy everything. Because when we look at head-to-head training exchanges, something unexpected happens. Most people never hear this part. The SASR and Delta Force regularly train together. Under the ANZUS alliance, the Australia, New Zealand, United States Security Treaty signed in 1951. These units share tactics, techniques, and procedures. According to U.S. Special Operations Command Public Affairs in 2019, SASR participates in the annual Talisman Sabre exercises with U.S. forces. Thousands of troops, live-fire scenarios, joint operations in the Australian outback. Delta operators have trained at SASR facilities in Perth, and SASR troopers have embedded with Delta at Fort Liberty. So what do they think of each other? In a 2018 interview with Military Times, a former Delta operator, speaking anonymously, said this: "The Aussies are switched on. They don't have our budget, but their field craft is world-class." In 2020, an SASR veteran told the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, "Delta has the gear and the backup. We have the independence. Both approaches work." Here's the truth no YouTube video wants to admit. Comparing these units is like comparing a surgeon to a firefighter. Both save lives, but in completely different ways. Let me break down mission specialization. The SASR excels at long-range reconnaissance, small team autonomy, and operating in austere environments with minimal support. Think jungle patrols, desert surveillance, weeks behind enemy lines. Delta Force excels at hostage rescue, high-value target elimination, and complex urban operations with multi-agency coordination. Think embassy takedowns, terrorist compounds, raids in densities. And here's the science to back it up. A 2019 U.S. Army War College study on special operations effectiveness found that mission success rates correlate more strongly with training specificity. That's a correlation coefficient of 0.78, than with selection attrition rates, which scored 0.54. Translation: how you train matters more than how hard selection was. So if you're still trying to crown one unit as tougher, you're asking the wrong question. Because the real answer lies in one factor both countries avoid discussing. This is what changes everything. Delta Force operates under the world's largest defense budget, $877 billion in 2023, according to the U.S. Department of Defense. The SASR operates under Australia's defence budget, $32.3 billion Australian dollars in 2023, per the Australia Department of Defence. Do the math. The US outspends Australia roughly 20 to 1. What does that mean in practice? Delta has satellite support, global airlift capability, 24/7 intelligence fusion centers staffed by hundreds of analysts. If something goes wrong, reinforcements can arrive from Germany, Qatar, or Japan within hours. The SASR relies more on regional partnerships, host nation support, and creative problem solving. If something goes wrong, they might have to wait days for extraction. Let me give you a scenario. Imagine you're kidnapped in a hostile country. Two rescue options. Option A, Delta Force arrives in 12 hours with full air support, drone coverage, and a 40-man assault force. They have real-time intelligence from NSA intercepts. They breach the building with precision explosives. You're out in 3 minutes. Option B, SASR arrives in 8 hours with an 8-man team. No air support, They use local vehicles and indigenous weapons to avoid detection. They infiltrate quietly, neutralize guards silently, and extract you before anyone knows they were there. Which do you choose? The truth? It depends on the country, the threat, and the political situation. In a permissive environment where the U.S. has influence and can operate openly, Delta. In a denied area where a small footprint is critical and a large American presence would trigger an international incident, SASR. And that's the part that makes this comparison so fascinating. Neither unit is better. They are optimized for different strategic realities. Here's a surprise stat. According to declassified joint operation reports per Australian defense publications from 2018, when SASR and Delta operated together in Afghanistan, the mission success rate was 94%. They don't compete. They complement. So here's what this really means. Are they tougher than Delta Force? Wrong question. The right question is, which unit would you need in your crisis? Both represent the pinnacle of human performance, discipline, and sacrifice. The SASR operators walking through 40-degree heat with no backup, navigating by stars, surviving on water and willpower. The Delta operators breaching a compound in the pitch dark, with seconds to decide who lives and who dies. They are not rivals. They are brothers in the most dangerous profession on Earth. So here's my challenge for you. If you had to join one unit selection, knowing the failure rate, the sacrifice, the deployment tempo, the years away from family, which would you choose? SASR's brutal self-reliance or Delta's precision machine? Drop your answer in the comments and tell me why, because the people who answer might just surprise you. And if you want to see how these units compare to the British SAS, Navy SEALs, or Russia's Spetsnaz, let me know in the comments. That video is going to break the internet.